Okay. Good morning, everybody. We are going to open the Economic Development Committee meeting of Tuesday, April 16th. It's 10:30. Present, we have Robin Freckle, member, Joanne Simsack, member, Mark Marziotti, member, and Ricky Bowden, associate member. We also have our planner here. Want to let everyone know that the meeting is being recorded. I'd like to call to order and pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. And just for the record, I guess, our chair and vice chair are absent today, but we do have a quorum, and I have offered to run the meeting for the day. So we will move on to our first agenda item, we're looking for a motion to approve the minutes of 2/20/24 and 3/19/2024.
I make a motion to approve.
Oh, we don't have it yet.
Oh, we don't?
So,
okay, good.
Oh, we didn't get 2/20? I thought we had that.
Thought we had them.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'll check, but Kelsey, who was doing the minutes, isn't here today.
Okay.
Okay.
It's tax season, so.
Yes.
Hopefully, we'll have minutes for the next meeting.
Okay. So we will bypass of the approval of minutes until a later date. And next up are our friends from CMRPC, Jane Wyrick and Victoria Chavez from CMRPC on the Gateway Plan. So we'll let you guys give us an update. Thanks, as always, for everything you've done and guiding us and leading us here, and we're looking forward to what you have to say.
Good morning. Wanted to talk to you today about the facade improvement program and what that could look like here, what other communities are doing. One of these quotes that I found was that revitalization of a neglected commercial district often begins with improvements to a single building or storefront. And I know that there is one property on West Main in the Gateway area where they've been cleaning up the facade. There's furniture display in the window. So it's good to see some improvements starting there. And hopefully it gets contagious. And so these programs are frequently among implementing actions of comprehensive plans or downtown revitalization plans. They often offer incentive programs to encourage property owners to fix up their places. And there can be matching grants or loans, tax credits, or design assistance, different enhancements to encourage people to use the program. The economic benefits are that it can strengthen the local business, which keeps more tax dollars coming into the community. The most common sources for funding are federal and state grants for the community and economic development, housing downtown revitalization funds, municipal revenue in some communities. And the big carrot that makes a facade improvement program successful is the incentives that the program offers. So some key aspects of a program like that is a formal purpose statement that explains why the program was established. Sometimes there'll be a slogan to help market the program. Oftentimes there's a well-defined target area, such as in this case it would be in the Gateway area. And it usually outlines the eligibility criteria for terms of participation, who might be eligible for it and what types of improvements are eligible. You got any questions so far? So in laying out the program, we'd need to decide what those eligible requirements would be, whether it's historic rehabilitation. I know here in Dudley it's a mix of building ages and types, so it's not as much the historic. Whether it be storefront improvements, adding awnings or canopies, signage, lighting, painting, gutters, downspouts, and improving handicap accessibility. It could even a lot of programs will exclude interior work. It's what is visible in the public realm. So a successful program to improve the physical environment reinforces a strong community identity and attracts visitors who can become customers. Getting started, you need to clearly identify what you hope to accomplish, document the existing conditions, build an inventory with photos. And then step one for getting it done would be to identify what your needs are. What do you hope to accomplish? What are the accessibility and safety needs? You want to maintain line of sight for both pedestrians and vehicles and into storefronts. Is there excessive pavement or stormwater issues? What is the condition of the sidewalks? And so the storefront could be as simple as cleaning and painting, or it might be other improvements such as opening up the transparency so people can see into the storefront. Step two would be to bring other people into the conversation, which is kind of what we're doing here today, to get some feedback from you. Partners are critical to the success of the program. Often includes municipal staff and boards, property and business owners, downtown organizations. There is a tri-town business development organization that Dudley is a part of, right?
Mhm.
What is it called?
Webster Dudley Business, oh, no, Webster Dudley Oxford Chamber of Commerce.
The Chamber of Commerce,
Yeah.
okay, very good. And then establish goals for the program. To build a program with a high likelihood of the community support and adoption and then funding, and we'll talk about funding in a moment. Identify property owners who are willing to participate in the first few projects. Create a working group to develop criteria for the program. What problems will the program address, and how are you gonna choose the projects? There's one community we'll look at, they actually have a weighted criteria to try, because there's limited funding, they wanna weight the scoring to choose projects. So what are the appropriate funding sources for this area? And who will manage the program? You know, is there staff available for it? Is the business group for Webster, Dudley, Oxford interested in working with such a program? It could end up being a multi-town program if that were the case. And how long should the program last? Step three would be to develop the design guidelines. I think in a community where you do have an established, historic buildings, then that might be a little bit more critical. When you have a mix of buildings and it's not just one style, I think we could probably be a little looser on the design criteria. So the goals of the design guidelines would be to address the concerns that you identified back at step one, provide clear and specific information about how the guidelines can be met to aid in implementation. Use graphic examples. Sometimes spelling it out is hard for people to visualize, so having those graphic examples can help. And then pre-existing storefronts can remain, but if you're gonna have some kind of design review or not, you wanna know what those criteria are. And then awnings help on sunny days or rainy days. Step four would be to develop the criteria for participation. And you can break those up between needs and wants or desires. The needs would be if you have deteriorating physical conditions, or the need for energy efficiency or accessibility. Desires would be having outdoor dining, or what the community preferences might be, and may depend on what type of assistance is available, such as CDBG, Mass Development, or the Bar Foundation. Step five would be to authorize the program, and it would need to be approved at town meeting. And be prepared with a public presentation of the program and what it includes, before and after photos of what can be done to make those improvements. It's preferred to have some type of a fact sheet to hand out to people, and maybe even a presentation in advance, so people understand what the program is about. Step six would be funding the program. And I apologize, this is so wordy, but I think it's good that there are so many possibilities for funding the program, if still available, there's the American Rescue Plan Act funding. CDBG would only be in eligible areas that have like a slum and blight or low income type designation to qualify for that, but it is possible. The Mass Downtown Initiative, Commonwealth Places, low interest loans. Some other CMRPC staff worked with Mendon and Upton within the last year or two to develop a program, and they're using loans on that one. Community Preservation Act funding, Redevelopment Authority if one exists. If they're historic properties, they could be tax credits, underutilized program, buildings program, Massachusetts preservation projects. And then the community could also sponsor a program that could provide funds to address issues that accompany deficiencies in the facades and storefronts. Step 7 would be to sign up participants, identify buildings that need the most help, and identify owners who should be approached. Encourage the program as a way to fund building code violation repairs. Step 8 would be to implement. Who's going to be managing it? Is it municipal staff, a volunteer, or some other organization? What is the permitting process? Are there legal agreements in place? Who's tracking the process and whether it's successful? And then how do you plan to celebrate once it is successful? And then measure your success in numbers of how many applicants were awarded, how many storefronts or landscapes were improved, how many more visitors have come to the area, how much have sales increased, and the ability to extend the program to commercial areas and other parts of the community. Maybe a way to measure that. So looking at case studies from several different communities in Massachusetts, as well as Southampton, New York, and New Britain, Connecticut. Some of them use CDBG funding, some of it was municipal funding. One of them actually had a downtown district established that funded it. In Brockton, their types of improvements were renovation or restoration of architectural details, energy efficient windows, new entrance systems, signage, awnings, lighting, and it's managed by the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. They're using interest deferred loans administered by the Redevelopment Authority, and CDBG funding, which is a healthy amount, up to $55,000, plus $2,500 for architectural services, and there are links for each of these. Lowell, Mass, they're using their program to improve business exteriors, to bring properties into compliance with zoning and signage. It is managed by the Lowell Department of Planning and Development. They use small grants for each storefront. If one building has multiple storefronts, they'll allow that for each storefront. And they encourage leveraging other grants and loan programs to get additional work done. And Lowell actually disqualifies some types of uses such as gun shops, pawn shops, liquor shops, smoke shops, tattoo parlors, and certain adult-only businesses. Southampton, New York has a really nice program that's involved with preservation of historic elements, deferred maintenance, and improving accessibility, or any code violations that are required to be addressed before they can get funding for the program. Southampton Housing and Community Development Department manages the program. And they have a combination of small grants and recommend leveraging other grant and loan programs. Ashland, Massachusetts, they're really concerned with accessibility, signs, awnings, lighting, energy conservation, painting, surface parking lots, planters, landscaping, and correcting code violations. And the town actually provides the funding. It's municipal funding. Over a 2-year period at town meeting, they approved an appropriation of $60,000 for the program. And then in the second year, they created a revolving fund that would accept gifts and loans. And so the town supports that one. In Brookline, Massachusetts, they use the weighted score for the streetscape enhancements. And on your right side in the blue table shows how they score each part of the application, whether it's excellent, good, satisfactory, and minimum. And because they do have limited funding, they do have to selectively choose which projects will be funded. And it's run by the Brookline Economic Development and Long-Term Planning Division. And as I mentioned, they have the revolving fund. Cambridge, Massachusetts, much larger than Dudley. And they are so advanced and have done so many of these projects that they actually have a GIS page with a map where you can select each different property and what type of improvement has been done. And they also encourage leveraging of funds and other grants and tax credits. And it's run by the Brooklyn Economic Development and Long-Term Planning Division. Oh, that's supposed to be Cambridge, I'm sorry. That needs to be changed. But it is city-run. That's an example of their interactive map with images of all of the different businesses that have been approved. In New Britain, Connecticut, they look at exterior code violations to be fixed, restoration of historic elements, removing security grates, improving signage and lighting, and visibility of entries to stores and window displays. It is managed by a downtown district, and the district will provide a 50% match. And you can apply for more than one type of funding, but there is a max on what you can get. And then there's the Main Street program. We strongly support the Main Street program. We think that it's got a really good balance between historic preservation and economic development. Has a national program that has been successful in many places. Hyannis is one town that does have a Main Street program. And as long as you're part of that Main Street program, you are eligible for facade improvement grants or historic commercial district revolving fund. So as you can see, there are many different ways to organize and to run it, as well as many potential funding sources. So I was hoping to get some feedback from you on how you might envision the program to be.
So the funding for this is in addition to any funding that we've received from the Gateway grant, right? Or-
Yes, the gateway is just to establish the language
Right.
for setting the program up.
Okay,
But as far as having additional funding to help
Right.
property owners with the improvements, that would have to come from somewhere else.
okay. And have you, as CMRPC, been involved in any mass communities and been successful in achieving this?
Carrie and one of our other colleagues was working with Mendon and Upton on one. And that one uses a low-interest loan program.
Okay. And the deadline for the grant was December of this year, right?
I thought it was June, the end of June.
I'm sorry?
For the Gateway grant?
No,
Oh.
but for funding this program, for the facade improvement.
Oh, it depends on which program you want to seek funding from.
Okay.
I would think they would, if it's something that's within the one stop, then the deadline would be June 5th.
Okay. All right.
I did talk to Andrew Lowe, our CDBG director, and he said that there's a study going on right now looking at the Merino Village and one other neighborhood in Dudley to determine the designation and whether it would qualify for CDBG. And that's as part of another project, but whatever the results of that are will help us to see if this program would be eligible for CDBG as well.
Mhm. Okay.
When would that decision be made?
I'm hoping very soon. I know it's in process right now.
I noticed some of those programs were $2,000 cap. Can you get a lot done with $2,000 if you're talking about a
You know,
facade?
maybe power washing or maybe a little bit of painting.
Man, I would think you need a lot more money than that if you have a very old building that needs.
And I think that's why they recommend leveraging other grants and tax credits if it's historic, and that's why we're looking at multiple possibilities.
It seems like the management of this program would be a lot of work.
I think so, too.
Dudley doesn't really have the resources in-house
Right.
to oversee this kind of a program. So I think we need to find some entity that would be qualified and skilled at doing this kind of work.
Mhm.
And then we could have, if we could get a program to fund them to set it up, I think that would be the first step.
Right. I agree.
Because you've noted a lot of work here just getting the program off the ground.
Right.
And so we need somebody who has experience in this kind of activity to do that for us.
Mhm.
Do you know, is it those kind of soft costs eligible for funding, or is it really just the construction work that's eligible?
It might be a different pool of funding, but I will definitely look
Okay.
at how we can do that. And I don't know if it would be hiring a separate entity to do that, or going through the chamber. We're thinking about a Main Street program. The thing about a Main Street program is that you need enough of the local businesses to help support it, to keep it going. I've seen some small communities where there really weren't enough businesses to support both the chamber and the Main Street program. And so the Main Street program decided to cease to exist. And it was just the chamber who ran things in town.
Well, this kind of a program, is there like a staff architect that works with the building owner to design the facade improvements, or does the building owner do that on his own and then present his scheme to the
One
town?
of these programs had specific funding just for the architectural design. As far as Main Street goes, you know, in some states, they have state chapters of, with the State Historic Preservation Office, and then other smaller Main Street programs in the different communities. I've seen one state where there happens to be an architect who's very closely involved with the state program. He's developed design guidelines to use across the state with all these graphic representations. But we don't have that right now at the state level. And I think that would be a lot for a smaller town to take on. But we've talked about the possibility of maybe a regional Main Street program, if that's possible. It's just a thought right now.
Do you know, Mark, has Webster done this kind of work before? Do they have a facade program for their
Don't know.
downtown facades? Okay.
I will check Webster.
Yeah. I mean, some of the facades have changed, but it hasn't been just a, you know, a broad brush of them. So I suspect not, but because why wouldn't someone, I don't imagine you can just take the money and not paint and, you know, do this, the small things, but. So you'd see some sort of improvement across the board, I would imagine.
So you noted some of these are grants and some are loans. If there are loans, someone has to oversee the loan process and
Correct.
obviously get the loan payments back, and you have a deposit, you know, account for it. And then what do you do with the repayments? Is it like a revolving
I believe so.
pool or something like that? So that,
Once those are repaid, then there's money to do another project.
so is that the primary motivation for doing a loan, is that you can sort of roll that money over a couple of times?
In at least one of these cases, it was an arrangement with a local bank who did like low interest or no interest loans. Which one was it?
2-year, no
Oh.
interest loan.
In Ashland, and the agreement was with Needham Bank. It's a 2-year, no interest loan program for target businesses. And some of these towns do identify what their target businesses are. It might have been Ashland, who's looking for like biotech and some of the, because where they're located near the Metro West, they are looking for certain businesses and if they're more likely to provide funding for those type of businesses.
I'm gonna direct this to Mark, because Mark's a commercial person there, he owns property. What spurred you to do some of the improvements to your properties on the main street of Oxford that you think would carry over? How do we get these people to care? I mean, I looked at your signage, I look at even, I noticed on your building at the corner the changes you do. What is it that makes someone wanna do that? Is it just strictly individual, or is there something somebody could approach from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's more, you want to fetch the right rent, you want to fetch the right tenant, so you got to have the right building, right? And you obviously want to, match what's in the area. You don't want to have a building that, doesn't look like all the rest. Not that mine didn't, but yeah, it's more of curb appeal. So when I have a prospective tenant or an opening, I want them to walk in and say, wow, this is the place where I want to build my business. So it really comes down to just a business decision. Yeah, there's no grants, there's no, it's just pure out of pocket. Mhm. I believe there are grants, though. There was one in the same town that my commercial property is that was very distressed. In fact, I think it was condemned, and I know that they put, if not, at least a couple $100,000 in, but I understand they were able to get grants for that. So I think in a building condition like that, there's a lot more help, and it may even be easier to achieve than someone whose building is not dilapidated, thinking that, maybe the business owner will do it themselves, I guess. I don't know. So
I think the key is, what's our incentive to get people in, Dudley business owners to do this? What do we,
right.
what's our key to get to them? To say, hey, your business will improve, or just what you pointed out, that your rent may be, relative to how you look with your building and what you offer?
Yeah, I mean, some care and some don't. I mean, you can very easily relate that to residential rentals. There's some residential rentals that none of us would ever live in, and how landlords can allow their condition of the building to be like that, I have no idea. But so it's just a matter of, I'm okay, as long as the rent's being paid, then fine. But I just feel like, again, back to my original answer was, if I don't give them a good place to build their business, then why would they want to be there, or who am I really attracting? I want to attract people who think like I do.
Well, you're also very active in two organizations that involve owners of businesses, and do you see this as an avenue of people being receptive to? You're active with the Business Alliance, you're active with the Chamber. Is that our source to get to some of these people? I mean, should we have been maybe having them come to a few of these meetings, or look to do something to get them more involved, that they can see the benefit?
Yeah, I definitely think that the Chamber of Commerce and the Business Alliance, I think those members would be incredibly interested, and I think that they probably are all like-minded thinkers and want to attract the best tenant and want to be proud of the building that that they own. But does that mean that the Chamber and the Business Alliance represent every single business in town? No, and that's the old that's the big question when we have our other hats on, and we say, how come they won't pay their invoice? How come they won't become a member? Because it's really not that important. What it comes down to, I think. I mean, that's certainly my opinion, but the businesses that are part of our groups are businesses that we all likely do business with, because we want to go into a place that's clean and fresh, and that the inventory's new or fresh or what have you. So at least that's how I think when I go into a business. I want to go into a business that, is clean and the staff is presenting the business very well, so. But like I said, not everybody feels or thinks that way.
So is our key through town government to get more interest with these people through the incentives or the pride of Dudley? Or we need to have something that will draw them to want to be a part of this? I'm not sure what we're looking at doing to get that. Those of us who are sitting here already know we have an interest in our community.
Yeah.
We've had it for years. But how do we get these other people to care that their sign just looks like a box sign and it's not anything that enhances their business or the community?
Yeah, I don't think that the property owner is necessarily the one that we appeal to. I think it's the business owner that's renting from the property owner to say, and use them as our media to get through to the property owner and say, hey, look, I can get a grant. Would you mind if I modified this sign or I, had the storefront changed? Hey, would you go in 50%? If I was able to get 50% of it, would you go in the other 50%? That may be, I definitely think that, approaching the business owner as opposed to the building owner is certainly the way to go. But I think that there's a way that we can approach both.
I agree with that, because I feel like they're the ones who would feel the urgency to not get pushed to the background by all their neighbors having new nice signs. They want to be able to compete and be visible.
Right?
Mark, what do you think about the chamber or the Business Alliance being interested in managing something like this? Because that's what I hear is super important, because we don't have the staffing to do this, in the government office, in the town offices here.
I think you are in the danger of people being worn out. And those like Mark and some of us who've been on committees and been participants, we're the people who give, but we're beginning to look for someone else to take a lead on that. And so far, I don't see the strength in that, do you?
So the chamber's a volunteer organization as well, and so she's right, Joanne's right in that, some of the board members that are here are past members of the Chamber of Commerce, and so, I think that it's certainly worthwhile having the conversation with them. There is a paid person, and that's the director. He's part-time, but he works probably 80 hours a week running this thing. And, we all cross paths, the Business Alliance and the Chamber of Commerce, and there's a variety of other small little organizations, and we all kind of work together, and I certainly think that it's a worthwhile approach that we, start there and see, rather than say, no, they wouldn't take it on. But yeah, they're no different than, an organization or a board like ours, and, in that, yeah, it's the 80-20 on the board.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like the idea that there be some funding for those soft costs would be an important question for us to find out, right? Because if we don't have any funding for the administration of a program like this, it doesn't sound like we have a lot of resources to do that. So it's like a really important question for us to figure out.
Do you think we've gotten enough notice from those people, whether it's selectmen or whatever, on what this program is all about? I mean, I'm not sure they realize what we look at and what the potential is here, and how do we get them to be more interested in it. When you see the visuals that we've gotten of how we could look and how we could grow, I don't know that they even know what we do with this meeting from a lot of these guys. I mentioned it at the assessors meeting the other day. I said, run the tape. You are going to be amazed at some of what has come before us to enhance this community and make it look so much better and grow.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I think, what Jane and her team are really suggesting is that we start with the public sector improvements first, do the street improvements, and once we show that there's an effort underway to improve that district, that property owners and business owners will then come forward and say, okay, I see there's a momentum going here, and then I wanna fix up my building. So I
Mhm.
think we need to take care of the town side first, and then let the private side follow.
Yeah.
So I don't see the
Although
private
the-
sector taking the lead on this.
The timing of it all, I mean, we probably would want to get started with this, knowing that what you just said is likely going to be the feeling of people who own businesses in town. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of different ways in which we can encourage. Will they all participate? Of course not. But I think that a good majority will, especially as they start to see, you know, the community changing. And yeah, I mean, what keeps us from continuing to come here is that I personally know that what we've been talking about can actually happen. We're seeing it in these pictures. These aren't fake. These are real pictures, you know, and what you guys are telling us is real. So you just continue to believe, you know, that it can happen. And I have a lot of pride in the community that I live in, and I want to see that happen. I just, you know, so that's what keeps us coming. But yeah, I think it's definitely doable. I can almost envisioning it happening. So I say we continue to, you know, roll down the road. We're very far in with the gateway part, and so we keep that rolling. But then we, you know, what's the next step, next dimension? And I think this is a great segue to what we need to do next. And we should, I think we should. We'll find a way to get to the people. We just need to, I guess, you know, if we don't need them to get these grants, then I say we move ahead, and if we do, then we'll have to figure out a way to reach them to get that support. We had a great response to the survey, right? So that's encouraging. You know, if they're thinking enough to take a few minutes to fill that survey out. People hate surveys, but we've had great success with it, you know, thanks to you guys. So I think we've got something going here. So I suggest that we, you know, continue to develop it. And, you know, not that anyone's saying that, you know, let's not do it because it won't happen. No, I think we just need to take this next step and see where it goes, and we'll address the hurdles as we come to them.
Very good.
I mean, I think we can work with the CDBG staff at CMRPC to explore a grant for commercial facade program. It's probably a complicated program to put together, but if those folks are willing to help us get that going, then I think that's at least a way to get it off the ground.
Yeah.
And it looks like from the examples that that's where some of the more sizable funding might come from.
Yes, 55,000 in one case.
Yeah, that'd be great. You almost hope that you don't qualify for that, thinking that we're at that point. But hey, you look at some of these areas, and you know, because it's what. Never mind, I won't go there. But yeah, it's just. I don't think I live in that community, but we might. So.
Okay.
I'm wondering, I'll check in with the Cultural Commission again on when their funding is, because I don't know if they would fund something like whiskey kegs for planters in a few locations. Because we talked before about the tactical urbanism, the small little changes you can make just to get some buzz going and get people to notice the changes. And Bill was just talking about the public improvements, and that might be a short-term one, but at least it's something you can do fairly quickly and inexpensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds great. I'm glad that you guys, you know, presented this to us, and, you know, always, like I said, encouraged to see what personally the next, you know, what our next steps are. Because I do believe that this will happen if we, you know, stay true to it and stay connected with you guys, with CMRPC.
Very good. We were thinking of sending you some homework.
Okay.
So that we have some information before the next meeting, and that would be sending you a survey that would have examples of things like types of streetlights that you envision on West Main, types of benches, et cetera, et cetera. Because the next thing we'll be working on, we'll be diving deeper into this and the funding and how that might come together. But we'll be looking at the streetscape design, and it'd be nice to know what your preferences are for some of the individual elements that are going to it.
Okay,
Sure.
good idea.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board relative to the facade improvement program? Sounds like none. Thanks again, Jane and Victoria, for coming out. We really appreciate it.
You're
Of
welcome.
course.
All right, moving on the agenda. So I don't know if you were expecting others.
No, I heard that they would not be able to make it today.
Okay,
They have more work to do before they want to come back and present something
Okay.
more concrete.
sounds great. So we'll move off the second item on the agenda, move to the discussion of welcome sign.
So I don't have anything specific to present. I really wanted to get a discussion going about what you're looking for in the sign and what kind of messaging you want to have on the sign. Do you want to have any images? What the wording might be, how it might set in a specific area. So you see these signs in a lot of communities as you're driving in. I'm just hoping that you might have some thoughts about what you think would be appropriate for Dudley and what we should be targeting. We have 10,000 available, which, it's not a lot of money, but I think it's enough to get a pretty, good sign. So what do you think we should be striving for with this sign?
So I had mentioned when we were looking at the examples that I think it was last meeting, that there was this, it was nice to have a theme or something that was consistent. And so if you look out here at the front and you see the hand carved sign, not the electronic sign, but the hand carved sign with the stone on either side, I mean, it looks nice. It's, so maybe something consistent with that. Now, as far as what does it say, I don't know, but, welcome to Dudley, I don't know what else.
My comments on it are, previously when we talked about this, it was, so do we have one sign that we're gonna get? How many signs do we want? Do we want 10? Do we want, what number of gateways do we have? And so what was said was, let's not make it, so elaborate that we can only get one sign and not accomplish our goal of, where's the gateway? Where are the gateways? Because there's more than one gateway. So I think we need to identify where, location, and then we probably need to figure out how to spend the $10,000. And that will certainly determine what level of sign we get. Because personally, I think it's important that we hit all the gateways. I think not just, where Dudley crosses into Webster or vice versa. Yeah, that's an important one, but, there's one in West Dudley and, there are others. So there's one in Connecticut on Schofield. So where, how many do we really need? And then, how do we spend that money best? Is there someone we can partner with? Like a sign company. I know a graphics company was right here in Dudley, right on the line, but I think they've since moved and they're just in Connecticut. But is there someone that we partner with? Someone that has some of those, probably ample of those stone pillars that they pulled out of another job and they're just not using, and maybe we allow them to put their name on the bottom of the sign by donating those or installing them, We could probably make that $10,000, go well beyond $10,000 if we get creative.
Where's the $10,000 coming from?
So we had a $75,000 grant for this effort. 65 is with CMRPC, and the other 10 is with.
So it's really earmarked for the Gateway project.
It is, yes.
Yeah, and so as we've defined, the Gateway is this area, right, the Main Street area?
I mean, I was thinking really of one sign for the gateway, but Mark brings up a good point. Maybe we could do one and have that as the standard, and then look for funding for other locations to put it in.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want a blue municipal sign that says, Dudley, Dudley Rams were #1 and, not that, but we need something, more classy than that. But I think we really need to identify how many we need, how big each of them should be.
Mhm.
Let's identify some partners that potentially could help us. And then once we have all of those pieces put together, maybe Jonathan's a good resource for us for that. I mean, he works with that stuff. Maybe he knows someone who might be sitting on some of those things that we had talked about.
Sure.
And then it's just a matter of getting a graphics company to, help us with it. But if you have two, very elegant bookends, so to speak, it doesn't matter as much what you put in the middle of it, right? We can always make improvements to that, even if it was a heavy-duty, PVC poly sign that was colorful to start out, and then, maybe we can develop it into something else.
Mhm.
Maybe that's not the right way to think about it, but that's just, one idea.
Mhm.
I feel like as far as the idea of the stone sign goes, like I like how that looks outside, but I feel like it wouldn't be practical at all the gateways, A, because it would be expensive, and B, because it's lower to the ground than all the other signs that people are observing while they drive. So I think something
Yeah.
higher would be better.
Yeah, it's a good point. And in some cases, it might be sitting on the edge of the woods, right? So it would kind of look out of place as a, an elegant sign. Maybe something more, like you said, a bigger post higher up, more like a welcome to Dudley, like I've seen in some of the Nickel videos. I don't even know Nickel's videos. I don't know where those were. I'm sure if I thought hard enough, I could remember where they are, but there's some that say welcome to Dudley now.
Mhm.
Aren't there? I
I think
mean,
there's one between Dudley and Charlton where King Road is, I believe.
okay.
If
I
we're
guess I was
talking
wondering-
about just, if we're talking about just the gateway and really delineating where the bridge, right, the bridge is, to kind of where you cross into Dudley, if we were
Mhm.
focusing on that area, where would the sign go there? Does
I think,
anyone have a thought?
That's a question, because I don't think the town has any land there other than the road right away.
Mm.
So we might need to talk to some building or landowners there to see whether they'd be willing to let us put a sign up on their property. So
Yeah.
we might need an easement or something like that.
Because that's gonna make, to the point that Ricky was making, is that we would definitely need to know where the sign was gonna go before we started thinking about what does it look like.
Yeah.
And I just wanna be careful that we don't lose sight of our primary kind of goal right now, which is to revitalize this gateway area. I mean, I know it's economic development, but we have like this kind of focus area here, and to kind of dilute our funds to kind of hit every area in the town, especially if we're looking at access points, might not provide enough like visual representation of progress. So it's just one other way of looking at,
No,
the use
it's,
of funds.
So would you wanna have some, other than like just a welcome to Dudley message, business-friendly message? I think Oxford has something like, it's a good place to do business or something like that.
yeah, that's the OBA, that's the Oxford Business
Oh, is that the one that
Association.
put
So
that
it's
up?
like
Yeah.
a business alliance, or,
I see.
it's a
So maybe
group
that's
of
not
business
appropriate for the
owners.
town to have that kind of a message on, I don't know. If it's a private.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got approval from the town to do that, but it was totally funded by this small group of business people.
I see, okay.
I think maybe we need two things. We need maybe historical group to give us a little input now, not later when they feel like they got bypassed.
Mhm.
And the other thing is maybe talk to 3 sign companies, send us Are they interested in giving us a proposal and their ideas? They're the experts on how to put things together. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. They'll know color combinations. All of those things matter, and how much you can put on it without being too much on doing that. But I think those are the two things, I think maybe we look for the input from that historical group in the beginning. Maybe they've got something that's a key that we can work on. And see if we could get maybe two sign companies to
Yeah.
say, hey, we're interested, we've got this money, will you work with us and come up with some ideas? I
Right.
mean, they're always looking to do business.
And they could even give us ideas for, one more elaborate sign and a couple, like,
Well, they can give us a proposal at least and tell us what money, we don't really know what money buys and doesn't buy.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I would add to the list of things that we could, research is in the survey, in the Gateway survey, we asked, I think, what people feel are our strengths or the strengths of the town. We could also take a look at that, because that might be something that we wanna highlight as well, so.
We can
add-
ask people to submit that thoughts that they would like to see on a sign about the town. That won't hurt.
Yeah, it'd be nice to, everybody, I mean, a lot of people think of Dudley as a, a farming community, so maybe is there a theme that we use for that? Not that we want people to only think of us as a farming community, because then they won't move their business here, because it's just this rural bedroom farm town, but, so it's just a lot of, one little question, and there's so many different aspects to
Yeah.
think about. The last thing, or the other thing I'll add is, linking on to what Robin was saying, is like a traffic study maybe, so how many people are crossing over from Connecticut to Dudley on Schofield versus this road, we know, Main Street here is huge, so, and then how about West Dudley from Southbridge to, how big is it, and so maybe we just say, hey, you know what, yeah, there's 5 gateways, but we only need 2 signs. I still don't think 10K is gonna buy us much.
Right.
So that leads me to my next question, in that, who determined 65 and 10?
I did.
You did, okay.
Yeah, that was submitted with the application.
Okay, okay, so that can't change. So I was gonna say, maybe we've only used 45,000 with them, and we can somehow find more than 10, but it doesn't sound like that.
If we can match it, that would be great, but who knows? So
Yeah.
what I was wondering is, we have a lot of open-ended questions here, so I'm thinking maybe we could have a small working group meet together and hash out some of these questions. And so would 2 or 3 people from this committee be willing to work with me on coming up with a proposal to bring back to the full committee?
I'm happy to, Bill.
Okay. I can notify the other members, see if we get maybe 2 other people,
Okay,
and then we can meet separately and just, look at examples and figure out what we want to do. And as Joanne mentioned, maybe bring in someone from the Historical Commission to
yeah,
help us with a theme.
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
And then maybe we can find out who the architect of that sign out front here was, when this building was constructed, and they may
Mm-hmm.
be one that we want to work with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Good, I think that's a good approach.
All right. Excellent. Any more discussion on welcome sign? Great, thanks for raising that, Bill.
Okay.
And then, do you want to give us an update? On
Just
anything you might
2
have?
things. I received a call from a woman from the Small Business Administration. She wants to come out and meet with us. So I've invited her to the next meeting. Her name
Okay.
is Shelley Gillis. She's with the Boston office of the SBA. I think she's new and just wanted to come out and talk to some small towns and see what's going on in her region and how she can help. So if we can tap into a resource there, I think it'd be great. So we'll see what, I think she's, be a 2-way conversation. What do we think the SBA can do, and what do they think they can do for us? So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, certainly wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, and then the other item was, we are out to bid now for the sewer lines and the sidewalk work in the Stevens Mill area. So we have a walkthrough tomorrow with prospective contractors. We'll be taking bids in early May and hopefully getting that work underway in the summer. So there'll be disruption in that neighborhood as they put in the sewer lines. We'll probably do the sewer line work this year and then the sidewalk work the following year. So people will be witnessing some actual in-the-ground stuff in our area. So it should be, I think, start to get people talking, and with, as Mike mentioned, the survey results, hopefully we've got some momentum going that we can carry forward with us for the next couple of years.
Mhm.
Good.
Great.
Great, thank you for that update.
Okay, sure.
Anyone have comments on the update from the planner? Okay, so we'll move on to open discussion. Any open discussion of the board? I have one item. So I know everybody, there's a volunteer position and everybody's very busy. I have not seen one of our board members for a while. I don't know if we want to reach out and make sure. That's Jonathan. I know that he's got a lot going on in his business, and I just want to make sure that he's still interested in being part of this group. So I don't know if you would be willing
Sure.
to reach
I
out to
can
him.
reach out to him.
Bill?
Yep.
I don't know if you guys are in agreement or not, or if it's just me, but I think it's important that we have, everybody here, and, if he is involved in his business and can't, support this group anymore, we totally understand, but would just like to get someone in a spot
Okay,
that,
sure.
All right, great.
Okay.
Anything else? Open discussion? No? Good?
Anything new at school, Robin? Rookie? Going on at Nichols?
Just finishing up for the year.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Let's see, some exciting things we have coming up is our Real Day, which is Research, Experiential, and Applied Learning Day. It's a full day of student and faculty presentations on all the experiential work that they've been doing. It's really exciting day for us. And we just finished up a couple of leadership development academies with local businesses. One was for the Higher Education Consortium of Central Mass, and then one was for Rhode Island Primary Care Associates. But we are doing another one with Webster 5 Bank. So,
Nice.
yeah, it's pretty exciting. Graduation.
The real symposium's this Thursday, right?
It's next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
What's next Tuesday?
The Real Symposium.
Okay.
Yep, the Real Symposium. So it's a really exciting day on the Hill. It's a lot of activity.
Great.
Good.
And Ricky, are you graduated, or you're still a student at Nichols?
I'm graduating in May.
Okay, great, exciting.
Yep.
You gonna stay around?
In town, you mean? Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna keep working with my dad in construction and
Yep.
working for Burns Real Estate Group.
Okay, good. All right, so that's it for our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion? And a second?
Oh, I'll second.
Second, we got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Otherwise, we have to stay here forever.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
Okay.
We close at 11:33.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark.